Hello, everybody, and good morning to you. Welcome to another episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. Hopefully, you guys are enjoying the weather where you're from, and if you're not, hopefully you're making good memories with the people that you're with. Now, I do have an amazing guest for you guys today. I do apologize for yesterday. I know I normally drop daily live streams. I had to with Father's Day coming up. You guys know that the work that I do, and we've had some really good challenges with the men. So I have to really be out there, make sure that I'm supporting them. I did put my website down there, so man, who is in need of support, please go to my website, book a slide, and I'll take it from there. Okay. Good morning, Lincoln. Now, before I get started, if this is your first time tuning in, do me a favor, head over to my YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification, so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. And if you know somebody who can benefit from the conversations that we have, please share this with them. I have a really, really amazing guest for you guys today. And before I bring her up here, I would like to say that this is for educational purposes only. If you have any questions or comments, please put them in the comment section. We'll be sure to get to those as we go along. Now, without further ado, let me bring on this amazing person, Miss Lynn. Miss Lynn, how you doing?
I'm really very, very happy to be here with you, Tony. And my heart, my mind, everything's ready to meet and greet whomever is listening. And I
Yes.
consider it an honor to be able to share my journey, what I've learned, and how I serve others in times of difficulty dealing with loss. And
Yes.
so thank you so much for the invitation. I'm here 100+%.
Yes, and I'm excited to have you here to hold this space with you. We've talked, and like I said, it was just an automatic connection. You gave me all of this great, amazing information. I've been diving into it. I'm just like, oh my God, this is like a woman after my own heart. I got this, right? Truly, truly excited. So before we get started, introduce yourself, tell people where you're from, and tell people about the work that you do.
Okay. I'm born in New York. I'm a New Yorker, truly, in my heart and soul. And yet I'm pretty well traveled. I've been around the globe. I've done my work in other countries, South Africa, Europe, all throughout different parts of the US. I've been on staff at UC Berkeley. I've taught for the University of Arizona. I'm what they call a thanatologist. I'm a death, dying, and bereavement specialist. My specialty is within the field of thanatology, working with the body. How does the body register grief? What happens to us, body, mind, and spirit, when we experience loss? And for people out there that really understand the use of language, it's really loss and grief. It's quite a misnomer to call it grief and loss. It's putting the cart before the horse. So we identify losses, we take a look at the body, we find out what the individual's going through, and we serve. I train, I teach, I mentor. This all became my journey when I was married to somebody with terminal cancer, and we ended up at the Living Dying Project in New Mexico, working with Stephen and Andrea Levine, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and a whole list of fabulous teachers that I honor when I quote them and share with whomever is ready to listen, that grief is part of the human experience because loss is part of the human experience. So I counsel, I teach, I present seminars, I mentor. I love to help professionals that are learning how to integrate tools for working with individuals' grief. It's very easy to ignore the roots of grief and thus go on a journey of discovery. If we can name losses and understand how it impacts the body, that's our first step of normalizing, supporting. So I'm very happy to say I've taught at the Mayo Clinic. I've taught seminars for the Association of Death Education and Counseling. I'm published in a couple of Robert Niemeyer's books, and Dr. Robert Niemeyer from the University of Memphis. And wherever we go today, I'm present 100% to meet the needs of whoever is watching.
Yes. And that's we connected on that level of servitude, right?
Yes.
When we talked, it was just like, whoa, that's I can definitely relate because this path that we're on. And I'm glad that you rephrased it, to loss and grief, right? Because I think a lot of times we're we do associate, what I'm saying, or put grief before loss, right? And I think a
Yes,
lot of times, what happens is that, when we think about grief, um, so in most cases, yes, we do think about the loss as a secondary thing,
uh-huh.
and we associate, because we can grieve jobs, we can grieve the loss of relationships, all of these different things, but it's a difference when you put the loss before the grief, because it's like an acknowledgement. You're acknowledging the loss,
Yes,
and you're acknowledging that grief is a byproduct. I love that,
yes,
right? And then, so yeah,
yes,
I really love that. And you're impressive. You studied with some of the people I call my silent mentors, right? Because I'm
yes,
just a young boy in this grief field, and I have all kinds of books. I go to YouTube, and I search these names, and I listen, right? Because I can't afford to go see them. Let's just be honest. And so I listen to what they say, and I take mental notes because I'm always thinking, right?
yes.
I call it my grief hurricane whenever I'm going through something, or if I have a thought in my head that I'm unsure of, I'll go check out the YouTube channel. I'll sit in front of the TV, and I'm just like, oh yeah, okay, I
Yes.
understand now, and I dissect it, right? And it's this fun thing that I love to do. So you just now became part of my silent mentors.
Honored to be so. You know,
So how did you get into, I mean, like, let's take us on your journey.
okay, what brought me here to this seat
Yeah,
with
yeah. Let's take us on that journey. What brought you here?
in 1982, which kind of dates me, yet hello. Um, I
Fabulous.
right. I was very fortunate enough to meet a human being that somehow recognized me as a partner on his journey as he embraced cancer for the third time.
Mm,
And at that point, somebody had given him a book called "Who Dies?" question mark, written by Stephen Levine. Stephen is one of my most profound teachers. And the bottom line was that Stephen Levine was involved with the Living Dying Project in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And my husband at the time, Mark Greenberg, was facing very serious questions at 34 and a half, 35 years old. Could he, in fact, continue to live with such serious cancer? And
mm,
he wrote to the Living Dying Project. They accepted us as participants in this project. And we drove from New York City. We're both New York City born. And we drove to the Living Dying Project. And the 8 months that we were at the house there was the foundation for the work that I am doing. And before Mark died, he looked in my eyes and asked me if I could possibly, with the depth of an agreement, do whatever I could to share what we learned as two people in our 30s on this profound journey. And I told him in a promise that I would do my best. And I've continued all these years to search, to seek, to study, to train so that I can hold space, which of course is an oxymoron, yet be
mm.
present for people that are dealing with loss. And I can't fix or save anybody. None of us can. We can
Right.
learn to serve those in difficulty. Service is its own reward. Now, Mark
Mhm.
died in 1984, and I've been on the journey of finding the tools to integrate my losses into well being, using the grief as fuel for transformation. So
Mm,
my work is called degriefing, which is an oxymoron. It is something that's conceptual because then we can use the grief as fuel. We put gas in our car, transforming our grief as fuel for personal transformation actually gives hope, gives meaning, and can give purpose for How do I live my life in honor? After Mark, I lost my sister Donna to breast cancer. They're two of the guides that live in my heart, in this metaphoric fifth chamber of my heart, that gives me a reason to get up and serve. I can almost feel them nodding, smiling, loving me, which of course each person has to find what's real for them with loss.
Right.
How do I continue to serve those in difficulty, especially now, Tony? We have a lot of global grief. We have
Yes.
Father's Day coming up this weekend.
Yes.
Those of us that are sensitive, we can feel the chaos in the world. And global grief exacerbates personal grief.
Right.
So, for anybody now that is saying, what is going on? Why is it so intense now? We want to normalize that those people that can feel the combination of their own pain, physical pain, emotional pain, and look at the world and feel what's going on in the world challenges us deeply. Stay grounded and centered and talk to ourselves with loving compassion. Compassion towards self, first tool. Left hand on the heart, right hand on the heart. Over. This is metta bhavana. This is compassion to self. This is what we often forget to do when somebody needs our support, is to take care here so that we are sourced to be in service. So first tool, somatic tool. Hands are an extension of the heart. Let's bring them
Everybody
in
got
and
that.
thank ourselves for the courage. It takes courage to sit with others in their pain
It does.
and not take it on as ours and learn how to discharge. So that's how I work, Tony, meeting each individual where they are, hearing them with
Mhm.
everything in our power, with the ear of the heart, HEARTAER, in the heart, using the ear of our heart to be with them, to join them as they walk down the steps and the guidelines of their journeys. And each of us, although we're all the same and we're all different, when we have loss, each of us cope according to who we are. And those that are open to tools for deepening the experience and making meaning, which is what Dr. Robert Niemeyer is very strong on, make meaning of this experience. We're not, excuse me, I'm quite passionate right now. We're
No,
not
no, you're
victims of
totally
loss.
fine.
We're not victims of loss. We're participants in this human journey that includes loss.
Yes. And I want to add to that because I totally agree with what you're saying right there. And, people, I don't want to put it out there like that, but individuals that experience loss, I think we sometimes forget, right? Couple things, how to take care of ourselves because our world changes. Our perception of reality has now changed in a different direction. We forget
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that, the love that we give will be the grief that we receive.
Mm.
From that is and it's a universal thing. If you love, you're going to grieve, because eventually we do transition out of this world. We're going to leave people behind that love and care about us, right? And then for those like ourselves who are very empathetic, I make it a point, and this is just the way that I've always, well, not always done things, but the way that I've learned how to support the men that I encounter, and sit with and listen to and provide that space for them to be vulnerable, to be open, but also to feel appreciated. With Father's Day coming up,
Yes.
I've learned to set aside my own grief, because my son's anniversary is actually on Father's Day this year.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
and tomorrow is my mother's birthday, right? July 14th. My mother passed away 2 years after my son, and she passed
Mm.
away on my grandmother's birthday. And so it's although I do feel um, the emotional trickles starting to rise and everything.
Uh-huh.
I've learned to sit with it. I've learned to sit within my grief hurricane and go, you know what? This is a great time to remember who you are, not who you were,
That's
because they're
so
still present with me, right? But it's some of those
yes,
things. Go
yes.
ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
There's a misnomer that circulates, and here's what it sounds like: grief is the price we pay for love.
Hmm.
I take exception, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
It gives love a bad name. It
Mm.
indicates if we allow ourselves to love, we're going to suffer. Here's how I work with that. Grief is what happens when an attachment is broken or lost. I love my sister Donna still. She's no longer living. I'm not a victim of loving Donna. I've had to work with the attachment of Donna not being on the planet with me. The love and the loss continue. I watch year by year, she died in 2002, that every year I'm deeply educated by my feelings of yearning or longing or missing as I identify that I'm not a victim. I'm the recipient of a gift of having her as my sister.
Mm.
Because
Okay.
we're in the human condition and we lose the attachment. I was attached to Donna being my sister who was breathing. So when somebody says, I know I'm grieving because I love, I rephrase it. You're grieving because the broken attachment has caused deep feelings of loss, loss of self, loss of connection. Many people think we work with grief and it's related only to the loss of a human. You named it: loss of focus, loss of health, loss of job, loss of pets, loss of home, loss of safety. As you and I are sitting in our offices and we project out to Ukraine or Gaza, those of us who are empaths, we can know and feel that people are suffering overtly as we are here working toward educating the public and
Mhm.
normalizing how to work with loss.
Right.
So I'm always careful, and if I can refer to Dr. J. William Warden, his fourth task of mourning is learning to live in a life that we have experienced loss and be willing and courageous to keep loving. So
Mm.
we need to educate people when they feel victimized by loss. It's part of an unspoken agreement. We're born, we get attached, we experience loss. How do we stay healthy? How do we take care of the body? Because grief impacts the physical body. So
Yes.
just to clarify,
Yes.
I call myself a somatic of the body thanatologist. When I work, I want to know where they feel the pain.
You froze up on me. She'll be back momentarily. She just froze up on me. Hmm. We're having some technical difficulties. You guys, bear with us just for a fair moment. And for the record, for you guys who are tuning in right now, I do have on Lynn Prashant. She is a grief dermatologist, somatic grief coach, and we are talking about how grief is attached in the body, and she was explaining her work. If you guys have any questions or comments, please put them in the comment section. She'll be back momentarily. And if you guys know any of the men in your family who's struggling this year with Father's Day, I did put my website down there. Please do me a favor, go to my website, have them reach out to me. I'd be happy to get on a Zoom call with them or get on the phone call with them. Provide that space to where they can feel supported. I'm thinking I may do a group for Father's Day to where we can come and be supported by those. So give me a second. Thank you, Elizabeth. I'm just waiting for Lynn to jump back on real quick. I think I lost her connection. Hopefully you're enjoying the conversation so far. If you have any questions or comments, please put them in the comments section. We'll be sure to get back with them. If you guys have any questions for me, as I wait for my colleague to jump back on. Oh, there she is.
Right. Here we go. Okay. We kind of disappeared and look, we've reappeared.
Yeah, I saw that. Hey, Maya. I got your email. Been really busy. I'm going to email you back. We'll talk shortly after this. But please welcome my guest, Ms. Lynn Prashant. And if you guys have any questions or comments for her, please put those in the comment section. I'm looking forward to it. Let me know. I'll reach out to you when I get done, okay? And then we can go from there. And so you were explaining.
I was
Uh,
normalizing. Exactly.
normalizing. Yes, normalizing.
Which is
Yes.
many's a new word. I wrote a manual and I had some help. And the question was, what do you mean normalizing? This is over 20 years ago. Now that phrase is used quite efficiently. How do we reestablish a new normal? Because once we have loss, it changes us forever.
Yes.
And we don't grieve the things that, let me rephrase that. We grieve the things that we are attached to. When we lose something we're attached to is when we grieve. It is the normal response of loss to feel grief. The question is, what do we do with the grief? Do we get under the covers and deny it? Or do we sit tall in our chair or stand tall in our truth and say, okay, I'm worth understanding, working with, and normalizing, recalibrating my relationship to this experience called life. That Donna can't be here with me will always be an ache in my heart because I love her so dearly. Yet she lives in this metaphoric fifth chamber of my heart. Her journey was not mine. She had to leave sooner. So we tried to rationalize why, what, how. What we need to know is if we've had loss, we have grief, the grief is fuel. What do we do with it? Some choose to narcotize and not deal. Others say, this pain is something I need to work with, understand. And so I want to mention two grieving styles. Dr. Kenneth Doka, one of my teachers, wrote a book on gender-based differences in grieving. The grieving population seems to fall into two generic categories, and we all have both operating within us to different degrees. We intuitive that finds out about a loss and sits with it and asks themselves, what do I do? What do I need to take care of myself, take care of others? What's my next step? Then we have another category called the instrumental grievers. They're the individuals that must do something, physically, pragmatically, fix the fence that the truck drove through, do something on the physical plane, and then they're able to sit with their grief. It's important that we meet each individual in their own grieving style and explain to them that there is no hard and fast manual for how to deal with loss, that each individual has to soul search and ask themselves, how can I possibly re-enter my broken heart so that I can, in fact, learn to live with this loss and be a victim of it? Sometimes it takes a week, a year, a month, 2 years. There is no time element that says, okay, you're finished. You've done your grief work. Learning tools for working with grief is a skill for a lifetime because loss is part of the human experience. So we really need to be gentle and firm when we embrace another in their grief and meet them. Be open to learning who they are and honoring them where they are. And I believe that this is why people use the phrases to avoid, God needed another little angel, not supportive. Ask that individual what they believe is going on or what they have to say. Those platitudes really upset grieving individuals. Culturally, we don't learn culturally. We have to learn when we're called to learn. They're called the phrases to avoid. We know when we hear them, don't usually help very much.
Oh yeah. It is always good to have people that can articulate the do's and don'ts of how to support someone who is grieving. I've been working on a webinar for that as well with a few other colleagues. And what we find that there's a lot out there that we can include inside of there to be able to educate people, but
Mhm.
we need to learn how to put them into columns so people know that, hey, if a person is grieving the loss of a child, you know, they can take these certain phrases very, very personal. If they're grieving the loss of their parents, their sibling, etc., right? It's going to be different, right? But not one is greater than the other because, for one, they're all valid. The way that you feel is very, very valid, right? And I love the fact
Agreed. Yes.
that you had mentioned, there's some people that have to do things, and there's some people who negate, or neglect their emotions or push it aside. And I tell them all, eventually, even if you do push it aside, it's gonna circle back around. It has a strange way of coming back around and putting his hand under your chin, like, hey, remember when you tried to neglect me over there? Yeah, no, I'm still here. And then you said something really, really important: the body, right? The body. We carry grief in our body. And that
It's
was one
true.
of the first things that I learned. I think one of the first things that I did when I got into this work, I started thinking about movement, right? And
Yes.
I had tried to do a series called, ancestral traditions, understanding
Uh-huh.
body movement and how to move grief through the body. I think I'm going to relaunch it. I failed the first time, but so I learned so much within that time. So I think I'm going to redo it again. I have a program coming up now, and I want to get your thoughts on this. But first, I want to read this comment from Maya. She is the
Sure.
host of the Surviving Siblings podcast. Beautiful
Yes.
person, and she's truly, truly amazing. She says, for one, nice to meet you. And she says, it truly changed you forever. Such a beautiful message. So I just wanted to put that out there to you because that was for you, your compliment. And I totally agree. What I found um, when working with men, and I do talk with women. I don't go in depth with women because I understand there's a boundary, and there's people out there that are better at working with women than I am. I'm
Okay.
one of those guys that kind of stick in my own lane and everything, because I do understand the confounds of trauma bonding and things
Yes.
like that, and the emotional attachment that comes along with loss, especially the misunderstanding of being in that space with them because I have a job, right? I have a duty to serve, but it can be misunderstood. Now, when it comes down to men, this is what you, and I love that you said this. When it comes down to men, a lot of times men are never taught to address our emotions. So we
Yes.
don't we don't truly understand them. Now, the way that we grieve is pretty unique, right? Because for one, we can do a couple of things. We will dive into work. We will we will tend to be very creative, right? We because that's when we go out to the garage and got to work on the car, got to fix the cabinets and things like that, and or now here's the part that gets a lot of people because they don't understand the love language of that anger. We don't, since we have that combination of not understanding our emotions, we have to speak it in a different way, and hopefully people don't take it in a very personal manner.
You're so right, Tony. Men in the American culture are really taught to metaphorically keep a stiff upper lip and not
Mhm.
express or expose emotions. And there's a misconception about the word vulnerability. Vulnerability is actually a wonderful tool. It's a wonderful experience of recognizing our humility, our fragility. And when you say avoiding grief, fresh loss exacerbates prior unresolved losses.
Mm.
So there's nowhere to hide from loss. We can put it in places and say, I'll deal with it later. It does come up. And we have to name something. We have to name that when we lose a person or a specific topic that we're talking about, that's the primary. I can tell you that the loss of Mark was a primary loss. Yet all the secondary losses keep surfacing through my lifetime because every primary has secondary losses. And so when the secondary losses present themselves and we say, no, no, I'm not going there, then we're actually denying opportunities to heal. I call healing mind, body, spirit integration, naming the loss, naming the experience. Where is the pain? Because the mind's a trickster. Our mind can't feel. Our mind is a programmed mechanism. It helps me get on line with you. I'm not denying the value. But when it comes to dealing with my emotions, my body's my barometer because my body doesn't lie. And my body can store unresolved issues of loss. And when it aches, I cannot deny that it aches. And so the body, I find, feels horizontally, the sunrise, noontime, and the sunset. The mind thinks like a shopping list. It's vertical. And so when we're talking about primary and secondary losses, or we're talking about horizontal stressors, a crisis that happened, vertical to be with you, take care of a little nutrition, make sure I'm prepared. Those are the vertical stressors. Yet, when I find out that somebody I love has died, or somebody's been in an accident, or something that I was counting on is not happening, that could put me into a different moment of crisis, having to deal with something that metaphorically came out of the blue. When we understand that life is full of horizontal challenges and that vertical things impact, then we can meet ourselves in our heart of hearts and ask, what do I need now? This vertical stressor, somebody falling and hurting their head. What do I do? How do I serve? What am I feeling? Where am I feeling it? Am I nostril breathing to keep panic and anxiety at a minimum? Is this a loss provoking sadness, or is this a traumatic event provoking trauma? When I normalize my reality, then I can sit with it and begin to integrate the information. And so what you're saying about avoiding loss, putting our head in the sand, you're right that it does recircle. It does come back. We have to look at it later if we don't look at it now.
Yeah.
Not everybody. Some people have the ability to put things aside and not revisit. Empaths like you and I, we don't have that luxury. We feel
I
it
was going to
all.
say that. Yeah.
We feel it. So self in our work, Tony, it's not optional. It's
Right.
required to stay balanced.
Yes.
We're not, how do we serve if we're not balanced? So self-care. It
A
means
lot of
something.
self-care. A lot of self-care, right? And I'm going to add to that because I love that you said that, because it was something that really dawned on me. Just, I think it hit me in the beginning, but it really resurfaced, and I had to visit with it. On my own personal, like you said, we don't have the luxury of having that, option.
That's right.
And I related to this. I related to this. Someone once asked me, how do I view everything in this world? I said, now I view it because I have a better understanding that I'm the seasonal one. Very simply put, right? I'm the seasonal one.
Yeah.
And the reason being, I'm here to walk with you in your darkest moments till we get to your next destination. What I carry is not mine. And at that moment, I've gathered up all the information that I need for the moments that I'm with you, walking with you. I'm here to just give you that message and then to get you to your next destination and go on about my way. I don't have we don't, like you said, Miss Lynn, we don't have the luxury of becoming attached to people, places, or things because of the work that we do. I think you froze up on me again. Nope, she did. What do you guys think about that? She'll be bouncing back on real soon. Uh, Hopefully we can get this get her connection going. But yeah, you guys put your questions and comments in the comment section, and we'll be sure to get to those as we go. I just want to say thank you for everybody on Instagram who's tuning in, everybody on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, all the beautiful places up here. Thank you guys for tuning in. And again, welcome my guest, Ms. Lynn Prashant. And she is, like I said before, she's truly, truly amazing. And to have a conversation like this with someone is just truly amazing. And looking forward to her jumping back on and us diving deeper into this. But again, let me just say, if you have or know the men in your life who are struggling right now, I did put my website down there, www.mensgriefsupport.org. And this has been a hard year for a lot of men, and they're struggling. And we want to make sure that they do have the necessary support moving through this Father's Day season and moving forward. She is back.
I'm just sitting here watching technology interrupt our loving communications here.
You know, this is what happens, but that's what makes us wonderful, right? Because it doesn't stop anything. It just pauses us a little bit and then brings us back to the moment to where we can continue doing what it do. See, as my mama used to say, she used to say, boy, the devil's at work. He don't want you to have that conversation. Right? That's all I can hear. He don't want you to have that conversation because he knows he knows what we're doing. And so I love phrasing that, right?
Our intentions right. So we're going to continue. I want to name something. Let me name something you've been talking about.
Go ahead.
When we have, let's say we have two losses. You mentioned your son, you mentioned your mom. When losses add up, they don't add up numerically. They add up exponentially. It's not 1 + 1 because you named two primary losses and the losses have all the secondary components. Father's Day for you, child loss. Mother's birthday, mother loss. So we're so vulnerable to all these truths and all these feelings. And so when we talk about the body, our body knows all this. And we talk about the body as our barometer. That's what we trust. Dr. Eugene Gendlin from the University of Chicago, whose work called Focusing, has served professionals in this field for years. What's the felt sense? What can I identify as this inexplicable experience is registering in my body? Where put my hands on it? Is it heartache? Is it feeling powerless? Is it feeling unable to express or tell people what's going on? So we look at this felt sense. We take care of the body to keep it regulated. We go to the body for information. And by caring for the body and by asking skillful questions, what do I need to know about this? How has this impacted my sense of trust in my life? What do I do with what I'm learning? How do I make meaning? How do I name bereavement overload that several losses have combined, like a very tragic or unfortunate accident, that a family might actually die in a car accident and there's a survivor? How does one begin to identify the painful feelings of loss of each of the members that have departed? Or even pet loss, one of the most underrated losses that we say, well, I'll get a new puppy. No, let's talk about the loss of unconditional love. What does that feel like to us? Taking the time and not rushing to replace. If the ball's been, kids are playing in the street with a kickball or soccer or baseball and the ball disappears. Adults rush out to replace the ball. Let's ask the kids, what's this feel like that you don't have your tool for playing? What does it feel like to lose. And if we would do this starting young, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, normalize loss, not protect kids against that reality, then as a might have more tools. And of course, cultural differences indicate how we're taught and what
Yeah.
we learned from our family members.
Right.
So for those of us, there's another thing I want to make sure I mention. There's a concept operating now when we talk about global grief. It's called solastalgia.
Mm. Yeah.
Solastalgia. It's a combination of nostalgia and solitude. People longing for what was, this global malaise that at one point the country was calm and now the country's being bombed. Or the neighbors that live next door have sold their property to a fracking company, and all day long the neighbors are now hearing the machinery. It's a homesickness for what was. And it's
Yes.
very prevalent in our global culture now. As we look at climate change, all of the changes that we're experiencing, that causes bereavement overload and challenges us to focus on where we can affect healing change within our bodies, to
Mhm.
calm our minds. Using nostril breath as one of the greatest tools for grounding. Use the nose as a tool for consciousness. That septa, the two left and right nostrils, meet right here at the pineal gland, or the yogis would say the third eye. Two eyes that look out, the third eye looks in. How do we meet ourselves in difficulty with self-care and self-love? Because there's no cure for loss.
No.
It's part of the
No.
human condition. So, as we approach Father's Day, Tony, what are you finding from the male population that are reaching out to you?
It's a combination of things. They're really struggling, and I don't want to put them out on blast, but I just want to share some of their experiences.
Sure,
They're
please.
Most of these men are really struggling with their emotions, not understanding what it really is and things like that. And the crazy part about it is that when I
Tell me.
say that to other people, they look at me and go, "What do you mean?" Men are not taught about our emotions. We're not taught how to regulate or to address those things. We're taught to man up, right?
Right.
We're taught to not cry and things like that. So what you get is a grown man who is still dealing with childhood emotions and situations. So now, and like you said, Miss Lynn, we living in a world to where these men want to go back to a place where it was simple. They want to go back to where things made sense to them, to where
Mhm.
they don't feel so beaten down by life in general.
Yes.
And they're dealing with the losses that they've never had to deal with in the past. They're dealing with, the people feeling like they've been judged by everyone. And so you see them retreat inward and
Yes.
outward. They're expressing themselves in a way to where it may look a little destructive, right? They're going, you know what, I just want to numb the pain just a little bit.
That's right.
I need to go on a camping trip. Now look, whenever I hear a man says, I just need to go on a camping trip, after what they've just told me, I don't like to assume the worst, but I go, you just want time to yourself. I
Okay.
Let me
Yeah, let me
know,
name that,
you know.
Tony. Let me name that for you. It's called a meta communication. It's
Mhm.
what we
Yes,
hear
yes.
between words.
Yes, yes. You have
Okay.
to know
And
you have to understand the love language that's being spoken,
correct.
right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
being a male, and that's the reason why I tell people when it comes down to men, it's like a foreign love language that no one speaks. You have to
Right.
be able to understand what they're saying, hear what they're saying, but read in between the lines. So, when they
Yes.
say things like that, I go, hey, hold on, before you do that, let's go sit down somewhere, right? And so, in order for me to break the ice and open it up, it's
Sure.
like a barter system. And this is one thing that I've learned with men. It's a barter system. That man is not going to open up to me until he understands that he has nothing to lose with me. So I
And
share
safety.
something
Yes.
vulnerable to me with him. And once he understands that, it's like a trust. I'm going to trust you with this, right?
Yes.
I'm going to trust that you're not going to take what I've just said and try to hurt me. It's a
Correct.
sense of it's a barter. Here you go, right? I'm gonna serve this to you. I'm gonna give this to you. I'm gonna let you ponder on this for a minute. Then in turn, they can share with me, right?
Yes,
And from that
you're
point, right, I
because you're
established
so
that
loving.
right. I established that boundary of trust. I give you
Yes.
something, and I'm gonna trust you now, and I'm going to be patient because I know it's going to take you a minute to ponder what I just did. I'm going to sit back when you start talking because, as I like to tell people, Ms. Lynn, I always tell them this: when you show up in someone else's space, your job is not to compare your loss with them. Your job is once they get to talking, shut up. It's okay to not want to compare your loss with that individual's loss because it has no
Yes.
space in this. I do that to establish trust.
Yes.
I don't want you to carry that with you. I want you to give that to me because,
Mhm.
like you said, I don't have the luxury of being attached emotionally the way that you need to be. I'm the seasonal one. I'm here to walk you to your next destination. My job is to be present with you every step of the way. And when you're in your darkest moment, it's not my job to give you the light. My job is to direct you to the light that's already there for you.
You're so accurate with this.
I'm
We're
just a
guides,
servant.
Tony. That's right. We're
I'm just
guides
a
to
servant.
share what we've learned. When we disclose things personally, we just for the highest good. If I'm working with a bereaved sibling and I say, I'm also a bereaved sibling, sometimes for that individual, it might even the playing field
Right.
and show
Yes.
commonality and then allow a trust or at least a tiny baby step into trusting after the world has been shattered and scattered. And
Yes.
grief shatters and scatters linear thinking. And so often to use language to express. And there's a
Yes.
concept here called compathy. Some of us have to be very careful. It's a combination of compassion and empathy that if we don't continue with self-care to transform what we pick up from others as empaths, we can find ourselves exhausted, compassion
Mm-hmm.
fatigue, empathy
Mm-hmm.
fatigue. So understanding the concept of compathy, that in service, self-care, again, is not optional. To stay on our edge of clarity, to be that individual that another can reflect some clarity in the midst of their chaos. And
Yes.
so what you're saying is so key and important. Then in today's world, as we redefine ourselves to be stable in a chaotic environment, everything's moving. The planet's
Yes.
moving. The planet's moving
Everything.
around the sun on its own. Molecules, as we speak, are bouncing. So it's not about being perfect because perfection is an ideal. We are imperfect as humans. How do we love ourselves with that? How do we acknowledge that we're doing the best we can? It might fall short of that voice of perfection. And then we identify that that's an ideal. I'm perfect in my state of imperfection. How do I
Mm-hmm.
serve others? How do
Mm-hmm.
I actively listen? How do I not take on other people's pain, let it go through me, and share what I know to meet them where they are?
Right.
That's an art form. Transforming grief is an art form of being present. And there's no magic wand that says
Right.
one session, 2 sessions. It's a process of self exploration. releasing doesn't any longer serve us, and finding that which helps us redefine ourselves in the honor of what we've lost. Donna and Mark, the two biggest losses in my life, they're my guides for continuing to care for myself and to
Right.
honor what I learned from them and to share that with others. I'd like to tell you what Donna taught me. She asked me to be there for her during her cancer journey. And she said, Lynn, I need you to be responsible to me, not for me. As the older sister, I said, Donna, can you repeat that? Lynn, I don't need you to tell me what to do. I need somebody I trust to reflect back what you hear about my journey so that I can discover within myself my next step.
Mhm.
That's service, to be responsible to and not for. We can't take away other people's power in the name of I'm helping. We need to
Yes.
meet.
Yes. Yes.
Yes?
Oh yeah,
Great.
I totally agree. We got a couple comments. Grief to greatness. Thank you for the comments over here. I'm gonna read these out to you. Tell me what you think. They
Sure.
left two. They left two comments. This and it goes. When my father passed, and I'm grieving heavily. I thought a 4-day camping trip in the backcountry would somehow make it all go away. I thought I would get out there and calm my soul. I thought somehow I would find my father there or find a sign, and of course that didn't happen. But it was a wake up that I had to face my grief head on. And I looked at, look, I love the term grief to greatness. I love that, right? Because it's a sign of strength. Thank you for that as well. Um,
Yes, thank you. Yes.
it's definitely a sign of strength, and thank you for sharing that. Because it goes into what we was talking about before. We will find ourselves um, in really tough situations. And it's understanding the language.
Yeah.
Grief has its own language, but if a person doesn't understand, you will miss you will miss some vital points. You will miss certain things that are being said, and just in a different way. And I'm
Yes.
glad that you came back. I'm glad that you um realized that you had to face it head on. And if you do need that support out there, please reach out. And we can, I have colleagues, I have people, and maybe if I'm not a good fit, I can find someone for you. You got Miss Lynn up here.
That's
Some
service.
contact information is
That's
there.
service, Tony. That's service.
Well,
When
yeah,
we
but
meet
that's
the,
what we do.
well, that's what we all strive to do. You do it, I do it. It's a really important piece. If somebody reaches out and we hear them and we meet them and we realize there might be another individual that can meet their needs more efficiently, then
Mhm.
we refer. When we refer, it's a name. When we recommend, we know the person we're recommending. There's a slight
Right.
difference there. It's very important to maintain our integrity. And what's so important also in our work is recognizing that we're all in this together. It isn't that if we're smart or rich or really talented or highly educated, we can escape this thing called loss. We're all in this together. We're all
Right.
vulnerable as humans. And
Well,
so, what you're describing is an invitation for anybody listening at this point. And we learn from each other, Tony. You and I,
mhm.
from the time we met last week to now, there's a deepening of recognition of what we can do together and how we can continue to serve. And
Yes.
we keep learning. It's not like a grief therapist learns all about loss and then doesn't experience more. It doesn't work that way.
No, it
And
doesn't.
so
It doesn't.
I believe
But
that there is also something else right now on the horizon, big talk in the psychotherapeutic community. It's Kubler-Ross's 5 stages. I sit
mm,
here to tell you there are not 5 stages. It's a misnomer. Her work was applied incorrectly. Her
right.
five
Yes.
stages were designed for people facing their own mortality. It's not applied to pet loss. It's not applied. We must recognize where the field or the information has somehow morphed into something else. I saw a TV program, they were talking about a divorce, and Kubler-Ross, no, it doesn't work that way. So we have to dig deep and find out what tools work for us.
Yes.
And because I'm so passionate about my work and I'm not a great marketer, I say that in front of whoever's listening, I want to mention an offering that I have, which is a Day of the Dead certification training in San Miguel de Allende, Mexico, during the Day of the Dead that this country celebrates. And so I offer a 5-day certification training. And this year I'm taking it a step further. People in the field who want to learn to use my work as part of their practice, a mentorship training is following. So it starts October 30th, and the one training ends November 3rd. The next one goes from 5 to 9. Because right now, more than ever, whether professionals or not, we deal with so much loss just being human beings, that having tools to talk to our neighbor, our friends, our children's friends, a teacher, a pastor, because interestingly enough, doctors are not really highly trained whatsoever in issues of grief, issues of loss, issues of the somatic impact, the same way that they're not trained heavily in nutrition. So we're kind of on our own caring for this human body. There doesn't seem to be a manual out there that applies to all of us. And
That's true.
so with
That's
the
very
humility,
true.
it's step by step, this journey of discovery. And it's baby steps. It's having the patience and the courage to nostril breathe and say, what's next for me? Do I need to do a brain dump? Do I need to write a book? Do I need to make a documentary, or in their honor, start a foundation, a scholarship? If a parent's lost a child and the child was an artist, how about a little scholarship at the school? $100 to give to a kid in school who needs art supplies, or a bicycle. Little acts of kindness to support the love of the people we've lost or the opportunities that we've lost, to continually degrief, which, as George Carlin would say, jumbo shrimp. Degriefing is an oxymoron. It's using grief. It's the most available fuel for personal transformation. It's untapped. We learn to live with our grief in our bodies and just learn to tolerate and cope. If we mine that grief, we find that grief. It's truly like they drill for oil. We look for our grief, use it as fuel, and work toward well-being and self-care.
Very true. Very, very true. We got to start to wrap this up. I have an appointment at 11. I got to go meet one of my clients. But I want to say, man, we have to do this again, because we could, when we have more time to just dive into a lot of this stuff. I love this conversation that we're having. A lot of great points. Hopefully you guys picked up on what she was saying, got your pens out, reach out to her. Lynn, how can people find you?
My website is degriefing.com. It will show you a way to email me on a contact form. There'll be phone numbers there if you'd like to do it verbally. And during our session today, Tony, I decided anybody who calls me from seeing this interview, I will offer a partial scholarship for my training. If you're so moved and you want to join, I want to support that. And so I'm willing to give anybody who calls me 20 minutes, absolutely no obligation, ask me anything. Tony, you and I, we're people that thrive in service. So anybody who wants to contact me, I'm here to respond to you. And these opportunities to talk to the public, we can do another publication, Tony, on how to care for our bodies during grief, somatically based time together. We can talk about all of this. I'm available. Anybody who wants to contact me, it'd be an honor to respond to you. And I say namaste, that the being in me salutes the being in you. And I'm honored to be here. I say that again and again. I'm truly honored.
Yes, it's been an honor having you on, having this conversation. And again, we will be doing this again. You guys her website I do have down in the description on the YouTube channel. Go in there, check her out. Let her know that you've seen this, and and allow us to serve you. Through going through these tough times, as we grow as a community, as individuals, and again, Lynn, thank you for being on the show today. It's such a great time. If you
Thank
guys
you.
enjoy these conversations and you haven't already, do me a favor, head over to my YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. Now, if you know someone who can benefit from these conversations that we have, please do me a favor, share these with them, because not only do I have these amazing guests, but these are people that are actually in the field doing the work. Please go and reach out to them. Get the help that you get the help and the support that you need and the help that you deserve. We're here to walk with you. It's good. Ms. Lynn and myself and many others like ourselves, we're servants. We've walked this path. Even if we may not be a great fit for you, we know people that will be.
Yes.
Let's find that
yes.
connection for you, so you're not running around trying to do the work of trying to find it yourself. We've already, we've done a lot of work. So you guys take advantage of us. Allow us to serve you. This is going to conclude this episode of the Let's Talk About It podcast. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. We will see you guys in the next one. Ms. Lynn, thank you for being on today. Such a huge honor and a pleasure to have you on here. And for everyone else, thank you for allowing us to bring these conversations to the forefront and let you guys understand that you're not by yourself. We'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day.
Thank you.
You're
thank
welcome.
you. Heartfelt love to all. You can invite us to your communities. We help debrief communities as well. So take a peek at our websites, and thank you for this opportunity to meet you heart to heart, face to face in this moment. Thank you so much. Okay.
So welcome.
Okay, bye for now.